Greetings, programs, and welcome to another episode of Recruit a Friend, the show where we learn about the people behind the keyboard. Today, we're sitting down with a pet battler, lore legend, and the author of everyone's favorite jailer headcanon. Let's give a big Recruit a Friend welcome to Discordian Kitty. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I didn't realize I was going to struggle so hard saying Discordian in that intro. Yeah, I want to start, before we get into Warcraft, I want to ask, where does your name come from?
So, Discordianism is actually this joke religion that was made up, I think, in the 70s. It's like a parody religion. It's based on the goddess Eris or Discordia, ancient Greek or Roman deity, who's the goddess of chaos. In fact, she's very Xalatath coded. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Sinbad, the cartoon movie, but that's Eris. And the Principia Discordia, it's like a very short book explaining this religion, and it's just very funny. It's obviously not meant to be taken seriously, but there's a lot of philosophy in it. And when I read it a few years ago, I just thought it was so funny, and it completely matched sort of my attitude towards a lot of things. It's all about the chaotic and the ridiculous. And I was looking for a name at the time, and I liked Discordian Kitty. All my names have always had kitty in them, or cat or something. I mean, I had one back in the day that was witch elf feline. So I'm glad I've settled on something more. I realize it's a strange name, and these days most people think I just mean Discord, which I find very annoying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But it's just, what I like about it is no one has ever taken this name. I never have to now, until recently, actually, where Discord itself refused to let me use my name properly, and I had to put an O in it because it has Discord in it.
Oh.
But until then, nobody has ever taken my name. I'm always able to make it my username. So it's been the one that's stuck for that reason.
I like that. That's a great origin story for that name. I like to think that all religions are meant to be not taken too seriously, but maybe some disagreement among the masses there. That's a great name. I love that. So War Within, I mean, we're going to talk about it in a second, but War Within really is like it's made directly for you.
Well, I just love Xalatath so much. I mean, I do find I have to sort of correct my thinking of her, because I keep thinking of her as a chaos goddess, but technically she's not. She's a shadow goddess. Chaos is a different thing. It's very green.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, she could be both things, could be two things.
There's definitely an element of chaos in the void. Like, I don't think you can claim otherwise. So in that sense, I suppose she is a bit of a chaos goddess.
Yeah. I'll take it. Well, I'm locking in now. Listen, I have learned one thing. It's if Discordian Kitty says it's a thing, then that's probably the way a thing should be. Let's jump back. Let's rewind. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. What was your first exposure to the Warcraft universe?
So I was a big fan of Warcraft 3. It was one of my favorite games back in the day. I just loved the story. I fell in love with Thrall. I loved Sylvanas. I couldn't do the Night Elf campaign. It was too difficult for me. So I never really got into the Night Elves. I always thought they were very pretty, but I never got that part of the lore. And in fact, you will find that my approach to the lore, I'm constantly feeling like I'm catching up to the Alliance side of things. It was always the Horde for me. And I love the Alliance. There's so much about the Alliance I love, the characters, but I tend to be New Alliance. I like Anduin, not Tyrande, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Warcraft 3 I just loved that game. And then when World of Warcraft came out, I had a lot of friends who were playing it, and I thought it was the ugliest game I had ever seen in my life. I used to make fun of my friends. How can you play a game with such ugly graphics? And then eventually, and I kind of resented it as well, because I wanted a new Warcraft game. I didn't want World of Warcraft, you know. And then eventually one of my friends convinced me to play it. And it was during the Burning Crusade, I made a Blood Elf. a blood elf hunter because they have cats, and I was like, well, obviously that's the class I have to play. I've always been a hunter ever since. I have an alt of every class, and I like druids a lot as well, but I always go back to my hunter for my main. But I only played on my friend's account in Burning Crusade, and I never reached max level. I just went around the world enjoying myself, doing my little quests. And then when Cataclysm came out, I finally bought my own account and rolled a goblin because I just loved the goblins. And that goblin was my main until Legion. And yeah, that's how I was introduced to the game.
I love that. That is great. What a great story that is. I think it's neat that Blood Elves, by the way, are the right choice. They are the most beautiful horde race. Well, I think it's neat that you latched on to hunters, sort of superficially because of the cats, I think, but then just were like, you know what, no, this is it, because hunter is a very popular class, but you don't see a lot of people who started as hunters. They like sort of gravitate to them after the fact. I really like that.
I didn't know that, but I like the attachment to the pets has always been what I've loved about playing a hunter. So yeah, that's why I can't give it up. I love these pets so much. I mean, some of these pets are pets that it took a long time to get them, or, that was challenging, and I formed a real bond with them. And I feel like no other class quite offers that to me.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I like that. Are you still playing your main now? Is it that same one you started in Cataclysm?
No. So, Blood Bubbles, I retired, my goblin. I retired her during Legion because as much as I love her, and I adore goblins, transmog just looks so bad on them. It just drives me insane. And Blood Bubbles has a fantastic transmog. It's the only Hunter tier set that I've ever worked for. It's the one from Ulduar. It's like a red set with these... It's got like a gas mask and these pointy bits and it looks ridiculous on everyone else, but on goblins it makes you look like a gremlin. It's fantastic. So once I had that set, I kind of stopped being able to change her outfits because I was like, but every different outfit doesn't suit her. Blood Bubbles looks great in this particular transmog. So I decided to retire her, and now she's like there as if I need to do pet battles or I need to run an ult through some things, that's what she gets to do. But that's when I rolled a Nightborn, and I've pretty much been playing a Nightborn ever since. I don't actually enjoy playing a Blood Elf as a main because I had a friend who once pointed out to me, shoulders are so small on them. Mm-hmm. And I've never been able to unsee it. It's true. The shoulders always go down to these it's so irritating, and I want big shoulders. So yeah, I like Nightborn because it uses the same skeleton as the Night Elves, and I think it's a really good skeleton for transmog.
Yeah, and also they have that power stance, like the Night Elf, or not, sorry, the Nightborn like resting stance is like they're like one leg is forward and their like chest is open, and it's just like this, I'm in charge, you're gonna do what I say. I love it. It's my favorite resting stance of any of the characters, any of the character models. It's so good. I wish we could choose it. Whenever I do the Narcissus add-on, I try to find one that matches. I'm like, okay, let's see if I can get this stance on this character. Yeah, that's a great choice.
I love the Pandaren stance. You know, the one where they just sort of sway. I love that. Yeah. It's so cute.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah. So is Blood Bubbles in your warband? Are they one of the characters sitting around the fire?
Yes, she is.
That's good.
Yeah, she of course had to be.
That's good. In
fact, Blood Bubbles was the character that I spent ages getting Lochwinner Hawk on, but it doesn't really suit her transmog. So now I always have her bring out her mechanical pets, but my main has Lochwinner Hawk, and I always have a headcanon that Blood Bubbles rescued the Nightborn and gave her the pet.
Oh, I like that. Do you make a headcanon? Like, is there a story behind each of your characters?
No, not usually. Just the one. Okay. It was just the changing mains became a bit of a headcanon story.
I like that. That's good. Isn't that hard? It's hard when you find one transmog. I'm a victim of this. I love transmog. I love putting together outfits, but I am definitely a victim of. I find like a character finds it like this is its outfit, and they never change out of it. Do you on your new main? I didn't catch her name. On your new main, like, do you cycle through outfits, or have they also found one that is like, well, this is what I wear now?
So my new main is currently called just Discordian K.
Okay.
I've been changing her name constantly. Honestly, I struggle with her. I've changed her race more than once before as well. And while she was a Zandalari troll, I put together the beginnings of a transmog based on the Dark Shore male outfit, which is so great. It's like a chain jacket that goes down. It's got like a skirt. It was one of the first ones that had a skirt. So it looks like this big chainmail coat. I mean, it's one of the only good male transmogs in the game. And I put that together with, at the time, a crown, I think, and a few other things, including the Legion BM Hunter Mage Tower skin for the gun. And there's a shoulder that comes from Mr. Pandaria that's got like a dragon that on the one side that twists out and has like a purple eye. And it all works so well. It's just... And then they introduced the shoulder cloak, and they've been able to do different shoulders and the hoods. And I have now perfected this transmog, and it is so good that I said to my husband the other day, I resent it because it's too good. I can't change it. But then I realized that, you know, the jester outfit, the one that was on the trading post, now that you can take off pants, it acts like a little dress with a skirt. And on a Nightborn, it looks so good because you see your Nightborn's leg tattoos. So now I've got that transmog. So I did manage to change, but I do switch back to that outfit every now and then because it's definitely her classic look.
Yeah. I like that. Did you tweet that this week? I remember somebody else pointing that out this week.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way two different people brought me that same point of information in the same week. Very cool. Very cool. I love it. All right, let's talk about, so you got your own account in Cataclysm. You started playing Hunter. How were you playing the game? Like, are you a dungeon runner? Are you Mythic Raider or a Raider? Or are you, like, what's your preferred way to play?
I am a quester and collector. And it infuriated the people who got me into the game, who none of them play anymore. But they wanted me to rush to max level, get geared up, and come do content with them. And I didn't want to. I wanted to get the mounts, get the pets, and read every single quest and go through the story of the zones. So to this day, I don't like dungeons. I don't like playing dungeons. I have to be dragged into them. And usually I will be dragged into them by a mount or something. Mm-hmm. I do enjoy raiding, but not as much as I think some people. I don't think I would ever do mythic raiding. It's too much commitment. And I really enjoy this challenging solo content, the stuff that they've been trying to perfect and that they're still trying to do with delves. I loved Horrific Visions that everyone hated so much. The first one I loved was Chromie Time, but I mean, Horrific Visions were just so satisfying to me. I actually even enjoyed Torghast, except it was so samey, and I got very over it very quickly because of that. But I enjoyed Torghast bosses, like some of the more challenging bosses where you had to know the strategy, but then you could beat them. I loved that. I enjoyed Brawler's Guild as well. So any sort of solo content like that, that's my favorite. So I'm just so excited to see what they're attempting with delves, and I hope it's successful. I know it's having some major growing pains at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely is having some growing pains. I think it's going to be okay, though, hopefully. I just want to say I agree 100% with Horrific Visions. To me, that is, I rate every solo content in the game on Horrific Visions. Horrific Visions for me is a 10 out of 10. And everything else is measured against that yardstick. And unfortunately, I find a lot of it falls short of Horrific Visions. They were so good.
I agree. what I found amazing about Horrific Visions is how it was only the 2 locations, and yet it was still this amazing, like, it was an experience that you could do over and over again, and it was always enjoyable and always its own sort of challenge. And at the time, I knew, like, now I have alts across, like, I've got an alt of every race, an alt of every class. I play both sides as much as each other. But at the time, I was still very Horde, so I didn't know Stormwind at all. And Horrific Visions was so interesting because doing Ogremar is you were revisiting a city that you know very well. And then doing Stormwind, I didn't know it very well, but it was the Horrific Vision of Stormwind that taught me the layout of Stormwind.
Oh, very cool. I like that. Yeah, that was, man, they're so good. I miss them so much. Bring them back, please.
Yes, with time walking.
Yeah, I would do that. I would definitely do Horrific Vision time walking. I don't know what it was about them. I think the combination of the insanity mechanic and just everything was just, it hit just right. It was incredible. So how do you feel as a mainly solo player, it sounds like, how do you feel about Blizzard's efforts to add more in for solo players, like follower dungeons, for example, and story mode in the raid?
So I'm really excited about it. I'm not a solo player because I hate people. That's just besides the point. But because my schedule is just very, like, particular. I find it very difficult to work around other people's schedules. And I find it very difficult to sort of make sure that my schedule is like that we have the same time, we're doing something at the same time. If I feel like doing something, I kind of just want to go do it, and I don't want to have to make a plan, within reason, because I do enjoy raiding. But that is, raid nights are dedicated to raiding. That's when you log on, you're going to go do it. But anything else other than that, like, I often play during the daytime when a lot of people play evenings. I often won't play in the evenings or during weekends, because that's when I'm spending time with my family who don't play World of Warcraft. But I don't enjoy boring solo content. I don't enjoy stuff just being easy. Like, I mean, depending. If I'm trying to get a mount or something and you have to do world quests to get it or whatever, I don't want the world quests to be stupidly difficult because I want to rush through them. But I really enjoy the challenge of solo content, what we're saying with Horrific Visions. These systems where you have your own progress, you do your own research, you keep track of what you're doing, and you follow it, and you don't have to worry about anyone else or their schedule, or if they're happy, or if you make a mistake, you're the only one who suffers from it. So with the Blizzard's new approach, follower dungeons, I've used them occasionally. I find them very useful if I'm going into a dungeon to record the story. I find it very difficult to focus on the story of content if I'm with someone else doing that content. So that's why I love follower dungeons. But, like, I'm not going to do a follower dungeon unless it's so I'll use it once or twice. I really, really love the way they've implemented follower dungeons in the story this time around, where you go into the dungeon and you see the story play. Like, I think that's brilliant. I honestly kind of wish they would introduce mythic follower dungeons that don't give you rewards, that exist just for training. Because my biggest problem with Mythic Plus is I don't feel confident going in, and I don't want to ruin the dungeon for everyone else because I'm going through my low learning curve. I'd rather train in my own time and go in prepared. And I feel like if I could do that with follow dungeons, I'm not looking for the reward, I'm just looking to learn the dungeon. I think that would have great potential.
I agree. I think that would for sure. I mean, there are people who spend hours at training dummies trying to master a rotation, and that's okay, but you don't get the actual effect of I'm doing move motions, I have to dodge mechanics and stuff. That would be a useful, like, that would be beneficial not just for people like yourself who want to practice to get in to learn Mythic Plus to improve that way and feel like they're not holding a team back. That would also be beneficial to people who are already doing it to go in and practice those same things. Yeah, can we have that, please, Blizzard, if you're listening? Yeah, that sounds amazing. Okay, so there's another aspect of your individual play that, based on the latest episode of Hail Zalatath, I think I want to ask about, and that is pet battle. So you are a hunter. You fell in love with the bond between the hunters and their pets. Those aren't the only pets that you spend time with. When did your pet battling addiction begin?
So, to be fair, I think I've given a bit of a incorrect impression here. I do enjoy pet battling. I do pet battle a lot, but the motivation is not the gameplay of pet battles themselves, even though I do find that quite satisfying. It's the pets. One of my earliest memories is running around Elwyn Forest and walking into a building and speaking to the shopkeeper, and they had pets. It's these dragonhawk hatchlings. And I was so excited, and I didn't have enough silver to buy one. And I didn't know about the auction house or how to make money. So I went down to the Dread Scar and just killed these zombies, because I found that the one kind of zombie would drop an item that could be sold for 1 silver. So I just kept killing them to get my silver together. It cost 40 silver to buy this pet. And then I went and chose my pet, and I was so excited. And I have loved pets ever since. So pet battling is obviously the number one way that you get most pets. And during Warlords of Draenor, which I suppose it's the famous content route at the end of Warlords of Draenor, I just became very obsessed with fishing and pet battling. And I collected every pet in the game, every pet battle pet in the game, and did all the things that you had to do up until Warlords of Draenor. So I went to all the old zones, went and got all the pets and like there were pets that you could only do during certain months of the year, and pets that were incredibly rare. I got every single one of them, and I got my fishing to like perfection. I think I got that turtle mount from fishing. I did the Legion. No, it wasn't Legion. It was Dalaran in Wrath of the Lich King. There's like a fountain that you fish coins up. I did that achievement, all of it. And yeah, I've loved both of them ever since. So what I'm enjoying about pet battles in War Within is the family battler achievement, which they bring about all the time, is much quicker and easier this time around. And I honestly find the family battler achievements kind of annoying. So I'm almost done with it. And I usually only do them at the end of an expansion when I've got nothing else left to do. So I'm quite happy with that. But like all that said, I don't honestly think pet battles are in the best place, because you do need to kind of follow other people's teams and strategies to do. Like you don't just you don't just bring out your pets and fight them, because it's just too much. You can't possibly know what to do. Like too many times the enemy pets will just roll over yours. So you find out what the strategies are, you follow them, and you beat them that way. And that's kind of dull, to be honest. Yeah. So I do think they could be improved a bit.
Okay. All right. So you don't love the battles themselves. It's the pets. Listen, I got to tell you, if there's something you got to love, it being pets and animals is a great choice.
Well, they certainly provide enough of them.
Yeah, they definitely do. Yeah, they're all over the place. Were you able to get the gummy worm from the trolley code gift thing?
I was. Someone on Twitter, Skeleton Etiquette, it's a good friend of mine, sent me the gummy worm. So I'm really pleased. Yeah, I got my gummy. But I saw the new tabard stuff, and I've decided, you know what? I don't care. I saw I can go get them myself by doing some sort of online thing. And I'm like, honestly, it's too much. It's fine for a pet every now and then, but I'm not going to break my back over getting some tabards.
Yeah, it's that online thing takes about 4.5 minutes, just so you know.
Okay.
Well, it's very, very quick.
If I remember, I might go do it.
Yeah. Okay, so we have to know, Discordia Kitty, I can't imagine sitting in an interview with you without diving into the lore and when it first dug its hooks in. And I want to know, like, what was it about the lore? When did you realize, hey, you know what? I really like this story.
So it was Warcraft 3 that I first fell in love with the story. particularly Sylvanas. I think my favorite moment in Warcraft 3 is when she's dealing with that human who's obviously xenophobic and he's so arrogant and he's such a pain. And he makes a deal with her. He's going to help her take Undercity, but then she has to leave and give it back to the humans. And in the end, he turns around and goes, okay, off you go now. And she commands her Dark Rangers, I believe, to execute him. And it's so funny, and it's just, I love it. It's so cold, and Sylvanas always was my favorite character. And then when I was playing World of Warcraft, I was working on the basic knowledge of Warcraft 3 for a really long time. I mean, as I said, I played Burning Crusade, but I didn't play max level. I, in fact, and Wrath of the Lich King as well. I, in fact, only got to max level by Cataclysm. And by then, a whole bunch of stuff had happened that I didn't see, I didn't know about, I didn't understand. I had no clue about the Alliance side of things, the whole Onyxia, Black Dragon in Stormwind, all of that, no idea, none of it. So people would keep going on about dragons. I had no idea what dragons had to do with any of it. And then I think it was Cataclysm itself, actually, because that's got Caverns of Time. And when I got to Caverns of Time, I was so confused. I had no idea what was going on. The story was just, what is happening? I recognized some of these story threads, but the rest were like, I just couldn't keep track of it. Like I tried to experience the story you would a normal single player game, where you go play through the game, you know? But the way the World of Warcraft story works, obviously the story takes you into dungeons and it takes you into raids, and with the two factions sometimes you only see half of the story, and it's very complicated. And if you're just a new player and you're just playing through Elwyn Forest, you don't actually get a cohesive story. So I started watching Noble because he would explain things, you know, and I really enjoyed Noble's videos. At the time, I couldn't tell the difference between like Sargeras and Morganis. You know, he'd just say these names. I didn't know what he was talking about. And I tried my best to sort of follow what was going on, and just over time, getting more and more of an understanding, getting more and more of being able to recognize the major characters and their history and what had happened. And I think Mr. Pandaria was when, Mr. Pandaria, I was really into it, and then I was completely thrown because I stopped playing the game for a while, came back, and all Throne of Thunder was happening, and I had no idea what was going on again. So I think it was only by about Legion that I really had a handle on the story, enough to actually know the whole thing and what, you know, who all the characters were and the basic history of World of Warcraft. And before then, I was just trying my best to sort of figure out why were we going into this dungeon fighting this person.
I love that you started by watching Noble. Like, it's his videos are great. I took a break. I played from vanilla to the end of Wrath. I took a 10-year break. I came back. It was the Shadowlands launch trailer. It was Icecrown Citadel and Sylvanas and Bolvar. I was like, oh, I need to come back, and I wonder what I've missed. And that's the same source that I used. I went and I was like, okay, let's watch these videos. This person seems to be explaining things. I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I think Noble benefited a great deal from the fact that it was pretty much impossible to figure out the story in game.
yeah, definitely. So you fell in love with the lore. You had a good grasp on it in Legion, and then along the line, you know, you're going through, you're developing your lore talent. You penned an article that I think was widely considered by the community to be fact. And that is on the jailer and the Primus and the real jailer. And I have to know, how did that come to you? And are you devastated that it's not been revealed to be truth yet?
So it all started because I didn't like the Primus. Okay. I got to Maldraxxus, and this guy's got his big statue up in the middle of the zone, and everyone talks about him and like he's so wonderful. I immediately didn't like him because of that, because just I'm immediately suspicious. Mm-hmm. And then he shows up during one of the patches and starts ordering you around. and he hasn't been there. You've done all this stuff on his behalf. While he has been, goodness knows where, you've been fixing his zone that he left in a mess, and you've been doing all these things. And then he shows up and acts like he's the one in charge. I was not charmed. I didn't like him. And I started jokingly saying, I don't trust him. Just out of, it was just a joke. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Shadowlands was a very difficult time. And I had started working for Wowhead, and I was writing about the lore. And people did not enjoy the lore of Shadowlands. And it was not people did not enjoy the gameplay of Shadowlands. There was a lot that was wrong with Shadowlands. And it became this air of just absolute doom and gloom hanging over the community. Everyone was miserable. It just became not really fun to be involved in World of Warcraft. So I retreated into the lore, into the story. And I really studied the story of Shadowlands from start to finish, because a lot of people would ask questions. They would say things like the jailer's plan isn't clear or it doesn't make sense. And I was trying my best to understand the story. So I really, I read everything I could. I paid so much attention. I wrote down every single line of dialogue, I started writing down what the quest said, just to sort of try, how did it all link together? And then I noticed these inconsistencies with the jailer's character. And at one point I thought, maybe the Primus is the jailer. And then I saw something else, and I saw something else, and I saw something else. And after a few months, I was like, I think this could be kind of a fun article, the Primus is the jailer. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't serious. It was just, we were in a content drought. Everyone was miserable. It was my job to write about the lore. I thought it'd be fun, sort of, here's the clues I've seen. And I started working on this article, and I managed to uncover, as it were, all these, I would keep finding new things that further, seemed to prove my points. And by the end of it, I don't think it was intended that he be the jailer, but I do think that sometimes things like that happen, where it just works out that way. And I do think it's a beautiful theory. I think it's they could absolutely 100% still reveal the Primus as the jailer, and they would not have to do much, if any, rewriting at all to make that reveal. And I still think the story of Shadowlands makes a lot more sense if you take it from that approach. So I wasn't disappointed when he didn't turn out to be the jailer, because I honestly wasn't expecting them to reveal that. But everything that did happen still feels like it proves my theory. I mean, the defeat of the jailer is one of the most anticlimactic raid endings we've ever had. Mm-hmm. And in context of what I'm saying, that he's a puppet. He's not the real threat. It makes perfect sense. So,
he is. I'm convinced. Look, I read that article and I was like, oh my God, who is Discordian Kitty? She is. This is it. This is what's happening.
I am actually considering revisiting the article for a video, transforming it into a video, maybe updating it a bit with some information when I get the chance.
Very cool. Let's talk about that for a second, because you mentioned that you started working for Wowhead, writing articles for them. And right now you're in the middle of a soft launch of the Discordian Kitty media conglomerate, it seems. What brought that about? What got you to the point where you're like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna build my own empire here.
Well, I have been trying to slowly build a YouTube channel for a while, but doing it while I was writing for Wowhead, it wasn't feasible. It wasn't working. Anytime that I had to write about something, I had to get it out quickly. Anything that would have become a video would have needed to be an article much faster than I could make an accompanying video for it. So I managed to put a video here and there, but I just didn't have the time to do both Wowhead and my own YouTube channel. So with Wowhead, I stopped freelancing for them quite recently. Portagorge is now writing for their lore, And I love Portugal. Like it's just, it makes me so happy because Portugal is fantastic, and I couldn't think of a better person to take over the role. I was quite frustrated with the work for some time. It wasn't working for me anymore. I just find it very difficult to keep up with the pace of Wowhead. And there were a lot of other issues. I had personal issues in my life, like private issues, but like writing for Wildhead and my own private life at the time, it wasn't working. So I eventually stopped writing for Wildhead. But I don't want to just throw away this, I've built sort of a name in the community. I've built all this, like I've been working on the law or working on writing about the law for so long that I've put a lot of time investment into it. And I said to my husband, I could try to do a career change now. I could go back to writing just normal journalism, or I could do a complete career change. But if I want to give my YouTube videos a solid try, I need to do it now because I'll lose steam. It's like the only time I could do it. So I've decided to try it. I had already begun to write scripts for YouTube videos because I've written a few for Taliesin and Evertel. And while I was working for Wowhead, I was also, Noble has a deal with, well, not a deal, but Noble and Wowhead work together. So every month, one of Noble's videos becomes a Wowhead post as well. And for those, he'd always send me his scripts for his videos. And I realized that I'm writing scripts myself. I could write scripts for videos. I just need to make them into videos. And then I started doing it, and I really, really enjoy the format of YouTube. Freelance, like writing, is its own skill, and it's been something I've enjoyed for a really long time. But I've been feeling frustrated and constrained by it. Whereas with YouTube, with the videos, there's so much more you can do. There's so much more you can convey. And I like being able to use my own voice as well, because sometimes in fact, that was one of the things with writing scripts for Taliesin and Evertel. It's always, first of all, so weird hearing Taliesin read out words I've written. And he always does such a good job. Obviously, I mean, he's like, obviously they're both really clearly trained in media and just professionals. But like at the same time, there have been times where he's read something out and I thought, that's not what I meant. And it's just because of how he phrases, like how he's using the same phrasing. It's just how he says it,
Yeah, the intonation is off.
Yes. And the amount of times people have read something I've written and they don't get what I mean because of that, So I'm finding it really exciting as someone who's been writing for a really long time to move into this, new way to sort of communicate with people. I mean, at the end of the day, I just really like talking about whatever I'm enjoying. I really enjoy it. And that's how I got into things like writing about the lore of World of Warcraft, because I mean, how else do you? And it's just, these days I feel like people are more likely to get their information, or these communities are more built around things like streams and YouTube and video. We've turned into a video society. And for a long time, I sort of railed against that because I'm like, but I'm a writer, I'm written, I'm the written word. But it's also like, I also really enjoy a YouTube video, like I enjoy a good essay, but I also really enjoy a good video essay. And I think it is a really interesting new way of communication. So yeah, I just want to embrace it. And I figure if I'm going to be writing about the law anyway, I can just make it into videos instead of articles.
Yeah, I like that. You mentioned journalism. Are you like a trained journalist? Were you a journalist before?
So I do not have a journalism degree.
Okay.
What I do have is some experience in the field because I had an internship at it's a website in South Africa called News24. It's a South African news. It was quite a big South African news website. So I have some training, but no official qualifications.
Okay.
So I've worked as a freelance writer in gaming journalism, but before then I was writing for it's mostly opinion pieces. It's the same as what I do for, I don't tend to write on the news. I tend to write on like unpacking things.
Right.
I suppose it would be like criticism, reviews, law topics,
Yeah, the impact of events happening, stuff like that.
Yes, yeah.
Very cool. Do you think that made you? Sorry, we're gonna just. I need this little side tangent. Do you think that experience made you a better writer on like what? Because a lot of people I think who come to Warcraft and start content creation in Warcraft, whether that's writing or videos, are doing it from the point of view of a gamer. But do you think maybe coming at it with that experience gives you a leg up, like an advantage?
Well, I think it gives me. I think I come at it from a different. I think it gives me a different perspective. In fact, one of the things we've been seeing a lot more of lately, and this is not because of me, this is again Taliesin and Nevertel, is the critical analysis of videos. And I mean, I could only dream to do them as well as Taliesin's videos. But that concept is they're just taking English literature and applying it to media, which is it's something you can do with any text, with any media. It's a perfectly logical step to take. And I also have training in English literature. That's really my background. In fact, that's how I got into the journalism and all that. So I would say that's really where my advantage comes from, is taking sort of literary criticism and applying it to this computer game. Helps you unpack the story. That's where I get all my tools to unpack the story. Yeah.
I love it. That is great. Well, that's a fun little insight that I'm glad we caught that here at the end of the episode. That's great. That makes me so happy. Squirty and Kitty, what does the future hold for you?
Well, I am hoping that my YouTube channel does well. At the moment, I'm busy working on a series which is the story of the War Within. It would be the guides that I was making for every expansion, so now it's a video series. Over time, I would love to do that for every zone, and to actually even branch out to do the story of Classic, and then have that compared to the story of the same zones as they were in Cataclysm. I would so I'm hoping to grow my YouTube channel, and I have started streaming, and I'm quite enjoying that. It's a lot of fun. It would be nice to be able to branch out with streaming into other games. Obviously, just there are games that I like as well that aren't just World of Warcraft. And that's my hope at the moment, is to keep growing the channel. I will have to get to a point where if it's not going anywhere, I'm going to have to pack it in and quietly disappear. But
where would you go? We can't leave us. We need you. Your voice is required here.
Well, if I end up switching careers, then the most you'd get is me on Twitter, which is the worst place for me, believe me. But
yeah, Twitter's not great. But with the Squirty and Kitty there, it's a little bit bright. You're a light in the darkness when all of the lights have failed. Yeah, Twitter's it's definitely a website.
That's certainly, yes. It is a social media site.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. Okay. Hey friends, sorry to interrupt. Let me tell you what this season's sponsor, Guilds of WoW. Simplify your guild management with seamless Battle.net and WoW API integration for all game versions with flexible viewing options that include Google Sheets integration. Use cutting-edge tools for roster management, event planning, and recruit automation with their advanced Discord bot and in-game add-on. Join over 110,000 accounts, 10,000 guilds, and 2.5 million characters thriving on the platform. Customize your guild page, showcase moments, and boost your online presence with custom domains and Twitch integration. Stay ahead of the curve with Guilds of WoW today. Discord and Kitty, I end every episode with a 10-question questionnaire. And if you're ready, I would like to ask you those now.
Sure.
All right. Question number 1. What is your favorite word?
Weird. And it is because when I was a child, I found out that weird comes from the word weird, spelled with a Y, that means fate. And the actual meaning of the word is to control fate. And
no way.
yeah, and it went on to just sort of mean anyone that's anyone supernatural, uncanny. That's what the Weird Sisters meant. It wasn't that they're odd, it's that they were uncanny, sort of witchy. And of
That's
course
why it's
now it just
called the
means
Weirding
strange.
Way in Dune.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, wow. You just blew my mind. That's crazy. That's a great word. Now I wish we were using that word not to describe some people. Because that's a very cool word now. All right. Question number 2. I love that. Question number 2. What is your least favorite word?
So I don't really have least favorite words. For example, I don't have an issue with the word moist. But I do have current beef with the word, which is harbinger.
Okay.
Because I'm a reader, and like most readers, and I have like, I tend to sometimes skip over letters. And so I spent many years thinking the word was harbinger.
Yeah.
And I still say it, and I still write it. And in fact, in a recent video, I had written in my script harbinger, and then harbinger, and then halfway through the video, I called her harbinger, and someone in the comments is like, "That's not the right word." And no, I can't. You can't stop me. I still maintain harbinger makes more sense. Like the bringing of the har.
Yeah, that's right. It does make the bringing of the har. Yeah, it does. That's great. It does make more sense. It does. I like that you don't have any words you dislike. You just have words that you beef with occasionally. That's great. Question number 3. What sound or noise do you love?
So unfortunately, I'm very much a basic white bitch when it comes to this. Just, the C, classical music, piano. I love the piano. So nice, soothing meditation type music.
Yeah, those are great sounds to love. It's a good answer. Question number 4. What sound or noise do you hate?
And again, this is very basic, but I can't handle nails on a chalkboard. It's awful. And my mom was a teacher and I was homeschooled, and we had a chalkboard. And I'm just so happy that everyone's moved on to whiteboards now, and you never have to hear the chalkboard squeak again, because it's just the worst sound.
Can you feel it? When I hear it, yes. I can almost feel it in my fingers. Yeah.
Yes.
Ugh, it's not a great sound. Okay, moving on. Question number 5. What is your favorite dungeon?
So I did mention I'm not a big fan of dungeons. But so out of the current collection of dungeons, I quite like the Rookery because it's short, it's straightforward, it's to the point, and I really like the way they built it into the story. Otherwise, I do love the dungeons that have the big story around them. So dungeons like Return to Karazhan and Dawn of the Infinite. Dawn of the Infinite, I have no doubt, is actually a very frustrating dungeon, but I never really played it, as someone running dungeons. I just went through the story, and I really like the story. Yeah. And I have a soft spot for the Halls of Valor because I will never forget going into that dungeon for the first time and just being amazed at how beautiful it was. Just stunning. Yeah,
it is a gorgeous dungeon. Those are all great answers. I like the dungeons with story too. It's one of the reasons I like Deadmine so much, because it's just there's a story there, even if it is a simple story. But yeah, question number 6. What is your least favorite dungeon?
So the Dawnbreaker is a nightmare, isn't it? My word.
Definitely a dungeon.
And it's such a pity, because there's so much about it that I want to love. Like, I really think it's so, like, I didn't know this because I wasn't paying attention to the story of the dungeons or the raid this time around, because I haven't had to for work yet. And so I didn't know that the boss that you fight in the dungeon becomes the boss that you kill off in the raid, until I saw the boss in the raid. And I was like, that's so cool. I love that you get them halfway down. And so and I honestly do like the concept of a flying dungeon, except I worry about accessibility, because not everyone can dragon ride. So as long as that's like sorted and that nobody's having trouble,
you can use steady flight in Dawnbreaker. You don't have to use dragon riding.
Surely you're lagging behind everyone else.
Maybe I tell all of my friends to switch to it.
Okay.
It's more accurate. I actually think steady flight is better in that dungeon.
It's probably better, yeah. It probably makes more sense because you go flying over things.
Yeah. But I definitely recommend swapping to that because it's not like it's a little different from No Coup Defensive, where No Coup Defensive felt like a race to the next stone to start fighting. This is more, the flight is more of a, I need a precision landing spot. So I think, anyway, I definitely recommend steady flight. It's, even then it's still, you're still it's still a bit much, but yeah. Question number 7. What is your favorite curse word? So
am I allowed to say it?
Oh yeah, please.
So it's cunt.
I'm not surprised.
Which I know is a terrible, terrible word, especially in America. I didn't know it was a swear word. I was very sheltered growing up, and I didn't know it was a swear word until I was an adult. And I didn't know it was a bad swear word either. So it never was a word that had much power for me. And then my first experiences of using it was sexist men would use it. And if I used it, they would recoil in horror because it's their word to use against me. And it's just, it has no power over me because I didn't even know it was supposed to be a bad word. And I think it sounds quite funny. And it's, it's very British, people calling people a cunt. And I don't think it has quite that misogyny element to it. In fact, in Britain, it feels more like it's something you call men. But yeah, you can't take that word away from me. I love it. And I don't use it often, but I do bring it out if I notice that men are particularly misogynistic because they do not like it when you use it.
No, I like that. You're like turning their weapon around on them and they don't understand it.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great. I'm not surprised. Anybody, I think there's been exactly one guest on the show that was from either the UK or Australia whose favorite swear word wasn't that. So I was prepared. Question number 8. What is your favorite raid?
So I'm really enjoying Naruba Palace so far. I'm raiding with a new guild for it. I remember a lot of the Dragonflight raids very fondly, but I wasn't enjoying raiding in Dragonflight. I was feeling very burnt out from raiding, and I should have taken a break, and I didn't. So it's like I can't say any of them. I was looking over them today, and I thought I can't say any of these with my favorites. And I didn't really get seriously into raiding until I raided a bit in BFA and a little bit before, but I only started seriously raiding during Shadowlands. So weirdly, my favorite raid is probably Sepulchre of the first ones.
Oh.
Which I just... Now, and it's because there was so much that I enjoyed in the raid. There were so many interesting encounters. I really liked the spider boss and Artificer Zymox. I was given a job, you had to run portals across the room or something, and I was given that job, and quite often I'm not given a job, so I enjoyed having to learn to do the job and doing it successfully. And there were so many interesting encounters where you had to learn what to do, and I really found that I loved that. And I think Sepulchre contrasts with the previous Shadowlands raids, because the previous ones, almost all of them had an encounter that was just upsetting, like Fate Scribe. I would never want to do Fate Scribe again. I think that was just such an awful encounter. It's too stressful. Where Sepulchre, it wasn't actually that difficult a raid, but it was an interesting raid. At least my guild did really well with it, so we didn't find it that difficult. And
I'd have good to answer. Say, I like that. Yeah, Fate Scribe is one of my least favorite fights ever. Question number 9. What is your least favorite raid?
Sanctum of Domination can go all the way to hell. Oh my word. I will never, ever get over that Sylvanas fight. And the worst thing is we did that Sylvanas fight. We were stuck on it for so long on both difficulties, normal and heroic, because obviously we didn't do mythic. And it's just, you go in, and it was the one fight every night, the whole night. and it's 20 minutes long. So you only get so many chances at it, but it's still your entire 3 hours is repeating the one fight. It was hell. And there were so many things that could go wrong that weren't even your fault. It was, like, it's not your fault that you wiped. You couldn't do anything to prevent it. It all relies on one person, and it's not, that's not fair on them either. There's like too much pressure. It didn't feel to me like a fight that everyone was pulling together. It felt like something that a few people had to get the mechanics right, and then everyone else had to kind of be along for it. And then one of our hunters got the bow, and he couldn't even use it. And I don't think he could trade it either for some reason, but it wasn't what he wanted. I think he was, I can't remember exactly what the details were, but he wasn't even going to use it. And it was awful. It was just the horror, the worst.
That sucks.
And I don't think I'll ever go back and try get the bow. I don't want the bow. I don't want to do that fight again. I hate the whole thing. And the whole way through, by that time, I was feeling pretty bleak about the story of Shadowlands, and the shouts from Sylvanas where she goes, "You will pay, all of you will pay." Why is she saying that? There is no reason for her to be saying "we will pay." Like, it just makes no sense in the story that it's just generic shouting, like I hated it.
Great answer. I used my context clues, and I guessed you were going to answer that. I love it. Question number 10. If Azeroth was real, where would you call home?
It has to be Silvermoon and Elwyn Forest. Because again, like, I can't play a Blood Elf as a main. But I will never forget Silvermoon City and those early days in Elwyn Forest. To this day, I will sometimes go level a Blood Elf just through those opening areas, just because I love them so much. So you can't beat that for me. Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's enchanting. It's so gorgeous. I'm really looking forward to Midnight and going back.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait. And hopefully we'll have flying there finally when we do that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I love it. Discordant Kitty, that is the whole episode. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Can you tell the listeners where they can find you?
So it is at Discordian Kitty, anywhere that you want to look. So it's on YouTube. That's what I am on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, on TikTok, on Threads, but I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. Potentially on Blue Sky, I don't really post there. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Do you have what's the schedule for Hail Zalatath? How often can we see those?
Hail Zalatath is every Wednesday, although there isn't an episode coming up this Wednesday because I'm unable to attend. But usually every Wednesday at 3 p.m. British Summer Time. And I'm going to have to work out a better time zone to tell you because we're going to end British Summertime soon.
Is GMT the same as BST?
No, so I think it's GMT +1 during British summertime.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'll have to work that out.
That's great. I love it. Thank you so much. And listeners, thank you for being here, for joining us on this episode of Recruiter Friend. This is the last episode in season 6. And I can't think of a better guest to have had for the end of the episode, or end of the season. Remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind.